Okay, welcome everyone as we welcome in Mordechai Sultan and Irving Fishbaum, Nachman Chapler, Berish Gesseman, Mark Frankel, Avi Ament, Yitzi Padower, Shalom Fogel, Dr. Block, Marshall Castle, Ilya Shudman, Aaron Swade, Rabbi Kranz. I think I see Peretz Buxbaum on Facebook, which is absolutely amazing. It's wonderful to see you, Peretz. And Peretz, I just want to let you know that you could join our family on Zoom by just going to zoomdaf.com, and join us. We would all love to see you. And here in Shul, Baruch Hashem, look what's going on over here. Saba is here, and Reb Kramer, and Reb Shankman, and Elia Yaffe, and Reb Sigelman, and Gedalia Engel. Abe Arbach has just joined us here as we're having a lot of late arrivals here. We begin. We are sponsored by A.B. Spry for the safety of our soldiers and their success in battle. We are sponsored by for Isser Zeb Ben Yuta. We are sponsored by Shimon Klein, Lila Nishma Asher Anshel Ben Yehuda, and Gittel Bar Shimon Pinchas. We learned for Irving Fishbaum. Amazing that Irving is with us here at home, B'li Ayin Hara, where he should stay with Gesund, Isser Ben Rezel. I'm very sad to share with the Olam of the passing of a good chaver from Staten Island. Mr. Samuel passed away today. Gitti Samuel's husband from Rupert Avenue. His neshama should have a lichtige Gan Eden. I believe the Levi is tomorrow at Shemri Adas at 9 o'clock. We also learned for David Yitzchak Ben Yehudis and for my Shver Avigdor Aye Ben Rivka. My Shver went with my Rebbitzin all the way to Manhattan to Columbia Presbyterian for a PET scan, and they forgot to tell him that he had to be off from carbs 24 hours. So they went all the way to Columbia Presbyterian from South Jersey, and they had to come home. They couldn't do the test. It's, here's a man that's over 80, and what could you do? It should be a kapari, it should be gesund, and it should be a good test result tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. We welcome in Avi Ament, I think, who's just joining us. Yitzi Padower, Stephen Holtzman. We are holding on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, and as you know, tonight is a big night because we're going to be learning the Chumash here after the Daf. I already did the Mishnah Yomis. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvaro. Very exciting Chumash here, prepared for everybody. We welcome in Yitzi Muller. We welcome in Richard Rosenzweig. So anyway, Gufa, the fourth line from Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, Umal Amal Ba'Hashem. So he said, of course, I gave my Shlomim, my Kachim Kalim to Marshall to watch, and then he swears that he doesn't know what I'm talking about. So, L'Rabbi's Kachim Kalim Shem Mamayna, that includes that the Shlomim, while they're alive, which is Kachim Kalim, is considered my money, and therefore Marshall, who lied about it, would have to bring an Osham, and he would have to pay the principal and a fifth. Divrei Rabbi Yossi ben Aglili. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yossi ben Aglili. Ben Azai Yomer L'Rabbi says Hashlamim. Ben Azai says, now ostensibly, what Ben Azai is saying is not all Kachim Kalim, but only Shlomim. Now we'll see what does that come to exclude. The Gemara is going to say that according to one opinion, it comes to exclude Meiser Behema. The Meiser Behema is not considered Mammon Bailam. Aber Yosi ben Dustoyaimer Loyamer ben Azai Ela Bechar Bilvat. Only Bechar, the firstborn animal, is also Kachim Kalim. So now, does he mean Bechar only and not Shlamim? Does he mean Bechar and not Meiser Behema? What does he mean? So the Gemara is going to unravel what exactly is the Machloikis over here. Amar, when Amar is like Kufa, it means that we're going to analyze what we are talking about as we welcome in Baruch Ian. Amar ben Azai Yomer l'Rabbis es Hashlamim. That when Reb Yosi Aglili says that Umal Mal Ba'Shem includes Kachim Kalim that's considered private money and therefore Marshal is Chayiv for swearing falsely, it's coming to include Shlamim Mutei Mai. What is it? Excuse me. I just lost my place. Just a second. Amar ben Azai Yomer l'Rabbi says Shlamim. Ben Azai, when he clarifies what Rabbi Yosi Aglili said that Kachim Kalim is Mammon Bailam, he says that it's not all Kachim Kalim, rather it's only Shlamim. So the Gemara says, what's it coming to exclude? Ilay melamute bechar, a firstborn. Now bechar, firstborn is also Kachim Kalim. But the Gemara says it would be unlikely that it's excluding bechar, because the Shlamim has more trappings of not being private funds than bechar. Because hashtomah Shlamim, shetunin tzmicha, you have to lean between the horns with all your might, and it needs to be accompanied by libations. And you need to wave the breast and the thigh, the priestly portions. Amrit Mammon Bailam, who we still say it's private funds, bechar, which doesn't have any of those trappings. It doesn't need libations. It doesn't need the waving of the breast and the thigh. It doesn't need leaning. It surely should be private funds. So the Gemara acquiesces. You're right. As I told you, I gave you a scoop. It's coming to exclude Meiser Behema. Why Meiser? Why is Meiser Behema less likely to be private funds? As we welcome in Ruvain Palak. Ruvain, we're about 12 lines down on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara, and by the way, I didn't point it out, but it is rare, at least on the Staten Island line. You see, I used to have on Koloshin 2 lines. I do have 2 lines. I have a Borough Park line and a Staten Island line. And our shir goes on to the Staten Island line. If you're ever listening on Koloshin, it says Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss Borough Park, and it says Rabbi Moshe Meir Weiss Staten Island. Our shear is the Staten Island line, and when you pick up a shear, it's usually, there's more than one shear on Staten Island line from different cycles. It's usually the last one of the shiurim. So, at least on the Staten Island line, tonight's daf is a virgin daf, which means that it's not, there is no other Daf Yud Gimel of Bava Kama on the line, which is very, very rare. We have to be a little bit more careful when we have a virgin daf, because it is even possible that there isn't one on the Borough Park, and that for some reason this daf was never recorded. I mean, it's not very likely, but it could happen. The reason why sometimes there would be on the Borough Park line and not on the Staten Island line is if I had a chasana, for example. So I would go to the chasana, run out after the chuppah, and make it to Borough Park. So that it would be missing on the Staten Island line and not on the Borough Park line. But anyway, so the Gemara says, why would we say that Meiser Behema is not Mammon Bailam? Kidatanya, like we learned in the Raisa, Bibechar Nemar Loi Sifte. By Bechar it says you're not allowed to redeem a firstborn. But v'nimker tam chai, the kohen could sell it to another chayim. The kohen could sell it to another kohen when it's unblemished, only when it's alive. Because if it was unblemished and it was slaughtered, that's shchutei chutz, and that's an iser kares. Ubalmum, and he could sell it to another kohen when it's blemished, whether it's chai v'shachet, whether it's alive or slaughtered. But you could sell it, but you can't redeem it. B'maiser nemer, by maiser behema, there's a higher level. It says, it doesn't say lo sifta, it says lo yigoyel. And by maiser behema, not only can't you redeem it, that the kedusha should go off the animal, but you can't even sell it. Ve'enoi nimker lo chai v'lo shachet. You can't sell it alive or slaughtered. Lo tam v'lo balmum. Not unblemished nor blemished. And the fact that you can't blemish it, can't sell it, that points to the fact that it's mammon gavoya and not mammon bailam. Ravina teaches the clarification, masnala seifa. He teaches the clarification not on the first part on Ben Azai, but on the latter part, on Abba Yosi ben Destoy Omer Loi Omer ben Azai Ela bebechar bilvad. Ben Azai only said the din that it's mammon bailim only by bechar. So what's he coming to exclude? Lemutei mai ilay lemutei shlamim, that shlamim is not private funds. Well, that doesn't make sense. Hashto ma bechar shekadosh merechem. Madach the bechar, which is holy from the womb. As soon as it's born, it has kedushas bechar. Yet, we say it's private funds. Shlamim, that only becomes kaddish when it's sanctified. Mibai. Rabbi Yochanan l'ma'utei ma'aser. So here he says, when Ben Azai restricts it to bechar, he of course includes shlamim. He's only excluding ma'aser behema. Kedetanya bebechar nema lo sifta. You shouldn't redeem it. V'nimkar tam chai. It could be sold. It can be redeemed, but it can be sold when it's unblemished, when it's alive. Or balmum chai v'shochet. But b'ma'aser nema lo yigoel. And the change of language tells us that not only you're not allowed to redeem it, but you're not allowed to sell it. It can't be sold alive or slaughtered. The Gemara asks, what do you mean that it's bechar and surely shlamim? It says that Ben Azai said that Abba said that loy omar Ben Azai elo b'bechar bilvad, which seems to include shlamim. Says the Gemara, ha b'bechar bilvad karma, which seems to exclude even shlamim. Kasha. So the Gemara says, you're right, that's a good diak, that's shver. Rava says, going back to the beginning of our discussion, interpreting what the Mishnah means when it says nechasim she'ein b'hem me'ilah, that is only a chiyuv for damages by property that doesn't have me'ilah, trespass. Says Rava amamai nechasim she'ein b'hem milah, nechasim she'ein b'hem din milah. It's property that doesn't have any shaykhs to Mila, which would, of course, then exclude a shlamim, because the shlamim has Me'ilah after Zrikas Damim, on the Emurim, on the sacrificial portions. Omai Ninu, and what is that, therefore, is referring to, that is damage? Only the hedyot, only property of a commoner. Anything that's Kaddish, there's no damages. So then the Gemara says, so then why does it say the whole rigmarole, nechasim she'ein b'hem milah, v'lisnei dehedya, just let it say nechasim of a commoner. So again, the Gemara says kasha. This is kind of rare. Two kashas, two stumpers in a row. Amar Rabbi Abba. So now,
can I just point out something? The Gemara seems to contradict itself. Well, on one hand, it's saying that the Shlomim has a chumrah, does as a Nesachim and all those things, over a Bechor.
They each have. They each have. Bechor has a chumrah that's Kaddish Merechem, the Chasim Shlomim has...
One's using it that way, and the other one's using it the other way.
Correct. Now, the Gemara tells us, Amar Rebbe Abba. Now here, this is something, I guess, it's a rare thing, so let's see. It's hard to... so let's say this happened to Marshall. Let's say, right, that you should see Marshall. Reb Eli is so surprised that I picked your name.
Well, I'll be darned.
It's mamish the last person he would have thought of.
That's the mark, I understand.
Yeah, now, what happened over here is that Marshall has a shlomim that gores Rabbi Kranz's ox. Don't look so happy.
And he doesn't have an ox, he has a board.
And his ox, and Marshall's ox is a tam. So remember, a tam only pays a chatzi nezek. So, and Marshall's ox is a shlomim. So there's the part of the animal that's holy, and there's a part of the animal that's not holy. Now, from the part of the animal that's holy, we can't collect, right? Because that part is part from damages. The question is, do we do a rollover? So let's say that Rabbi Kranz's ox is worth $200, and Marshall's ox totals it. It's a wipeout. What do you expect? You're dealing with Marshall, right? So it's a complete wipeout. Now, in this case, the meat part of now, what would Marshall be chayiv? Marshall would be chayiv to pay a chatzi nezek, which would be 100. But in this case, the meat part of Marshall's animal, of the shlomim, is $150. So from that, he's only liable 75. Now, there's also the kachim part, which is another 50. So there would be the 25, but that 50 is not liable. Do we roll over the other 25 onto the meat part? Right? It's a simple rollover. Marshall does it all the time in the shop. Right? So let's see it inside. It's an interesting case. Amar Rebbe Abba. Shlomim she'eziku. Marshall shlomim damages Rabbi Kranz's ox. And it totals it. Rabbi Kranz's ox is worth $200. He totals it. And remember, since his ox is a tam, he only pays a chatzi nezek from the basar. Not from outside. Only a chatzi nezek megufay. So goyva mibesaran, we could collect, since the basar part of the shlomim is $150, we could collect the 75 from the basar, ve'ena goyva me'emureim. But the sacrificial part, where there's more meat there, we don't collect from the emurim, because the emurim are not chayiv. That's hektish, and that's not chayiv. And we don't do a rollover to say that we take extra instead of the emurim. So the Gemara says, well, pshita, that's obvious. Emurim ligvaya solke. The emurim go up the shemayim, the sacrificial portions, we don't collect from them. Says the Gemara, the chiddush is ligvaya mibesaram kneged emurim. Whether we roll over the 25 extra from the emurim and take it from the 150 of the basar. So the Gemara says, well, there's a machloikis. This is very interesting. How the Gemara makes a application over here. There's a machloikis in a case where Ruvain's shar butts Mel's shar into Shelley's bar. What a plot. Poor Mel, his ox is walking, minding his own business, and Ruvain's ox pushes Mel's ox into Shelley's bar. So there's a machlokes whether we do rollover. Ruvain is chayiv because he's the primary damager. The question is if there's not enough payment from Ruvain shar, can we roll over the damage from Shelley onto Shelley? So the Gemara says, Pshita, it says the Gemara, Leit tzvicha legvaya mebesarim keneged emurim. Alib deman. Alib drabanan Pshita. It's pashit because imre kileka lishtalume mahai. When you can't get the money from Ruvain, loy mishtalima mahai. We don't take it from Shelley. According to Rab Nassim, he says, when you can't get the money from Ruvain, we take the money from Shelley. So the Gemara says, no, the cases are not comparable. It sounds maybe a little bit the same, but Mark is nodding his head and saying, no way, they're not. These cases are not the same. You can't pass that one on me. As the Gemara says, Iba Yisem Rabbanan, Iba Yisem Rab Nasan, Iba Yisem Rabbanan. Iba Yisem Rabbanan who say that where there's not enough money by Ruvain's ox to collect, we don't collect from Shelley. Hani Mili betray Gufe. That's where it's two damagers. And the Rabbanan hold that since Shelley's bar is the secondary damage, you can't collect from Shelley's bar. Aval b'chad gufa, but here it's the same animal. If you can't collect from the emurim, we're going to roll it over onto the meat and collect the extra $25 from the meat. I mean, we're talking about marshal here. Aval b'chad gufa matzi amalei. We could say roll over, wherever we need to, we can get paid. Iba Yasema, Reb Nassim. It's going with Reb Nassim. Yeah. From Shelley, we could collect if there's not enough to collect from Ruvain. Hasimu the Amalei Balashar Balabar. Look, Mel, poor Mel's ox. He says to Shelley, you know where my dead ox was found? In your bar, Shelley. Anot Turai Bebira Chashkachte. My ox was found in your bar. My Leslie Lishtalume Mahaich, but I can't get paid from Ruvain, Mishtalim Minach. I'm going to get paid from you. But over here, Aval Hacha, mi matzi Amar, can Rabbi Kran say Basar Azik Emurin Loyazik? The Basar damaged, the Emurim didn't damage. The Emurim did damage. And therefore, since here Mel is saying, look, the damage was found squarely by one person, by Shelley. Here, Rabbi Kranz can't say, look, only the meat part damaged me. The Emurim part didn't. The Emurim part did damage. And therefore, the meat part pays its requirement. It's not mechuyev to take upon itself the part that was damaged by the Emurim. Now, 2 lines from the top of Daf Yud Gimel Amid Beis. It's nice to have 28 Zoomers here this evening. The Yolam doesn't know Peretz Buxbaum, but Peretz Buxbaum was a regular in this year, and Peretz had a very hard time during COVID and got through it. Peretz, we would really love to have you on the Zoom, Just open up your computer and go to zoomdaf.com and make us all happy. And again, remember tonight, Rabbi say, after the shir, we have the Chumash shir. And, I don't know, I shouldn't say, but I am gunning for a chayk tomorrow night after the shir. I am gunning for that.
You're doing great with those lately.
Well, I'll tell the Olam what happened. Mifal Chaka Alami initially told me I wasn't doing it fast enough for them. So we were in negotiations. I got them somebody else to do part of it. At the end, they made a calendar where they calculated that if I do 2 a week, I told them I can't do more than 2 a week. It's just with my schedule, it's impossible. So they made a calendar that if I do 2 a week, I'll finish Mamish by Zaysa Bracha of Tavshin Pei, and that they could then advertise the beginning of Tavshin Pei. So I'm really going to try to do 2 a week. They also, I asked them for a raise, and instead of giving me a raise, they capitulated that I could get people to dedicate. So again, if anybody wants to dedicate, let me know.
Mark and I'll each cover a couple bucks for you. We'll prepare them.
Yeah, right. He'll give a chuk of Frankfurters.
I'm up for that one.
Yeah.
Mark, it's a very nice increase. Congratulations.
Yeah. Anyway, so now the Olam knows that another type of kachim kalam is a toida. So, for example, a classic case of toida would be that Irving would bring a toida, a Thanksgiving offering. Now, when you bring a Thanksgiving offering, you accompany it with 40 loaves of bread. So now, and again, toida is also of the kachim kalam variety. That would be chayiv and damages. So Amarava, toida she'ezika. So here, Irving's toida damaged Rabbi Kran's ox. So the din is gaiva mibisara. Rabbi Kranz could collect from the meat. Ve'ena gaiva malachma. He can't collect from the 40 loaves. So the Gemara says, well, that's obvious. Lechem pshita, it's obvious that he can't collect from the loaves. The loaves didn't do any damage. Says in our Sefer Itztrichlei. Nizik oichel basar. So Rabbi Kranz gets to eat the meat. Umiskaper maybe lechem. And Irving has to bring the 40 loaves. So the Gemara says, Hanami pshita. Well, that's obvious. It's Irving's carbon. Says the Gemara, no. Irving might be able to tell Rabbi Kranz, listen, hey bud, now you're eating the meat of the kachim, you bring the bread. Since the bread allows the zevach to be eaten, you're eating the meat, and I should be responsible for the bread. Kabash Malan, the lechem chiyuv the bailam. What do you mean? It's Irving's taida, and therefore, although he has to fork over the meat because of his responsibility of damage, it's still his carbon, his responsibility to bring the lechem.
Is there a murim by a toda also?
Yes.
So it's also just a quarter?
Not a quarter. Not a quarter. It depends how much how big the carbon is.
Now, didn't we say part of the murim is causing it and person can't collect?
No. You see, I set up a case where the gufay was not enough. If the gufay is enough, you collect all of it.
Ah, okay.
Now, nechasim shehein shel bnei bris, it has to be property of a yid. Lemutei mai. That if you damage the property of a pagan, you're not chayiv. We learned it later on. A shor of a yid that gores a shor of an idolater potter. Tana v'hadam afash. You're right. It does explain it later. There it elaborates it. Over here, it's just telling us chapter headings. It's really interesting. This is a real memory. In the late 80s, for 2 years, Ruvain will remember this, I believe. In the late 80s, I used to give Daf Yomi on WNYM radio. And I learned this Gemara. And I remember at the time saying it and saying, how am I saying this on public radio? And therefore I was very clear. I didn't translate it as a guy. I translated it as a pagan, as an idol worshiper that took some of the bite off it. But anyway, remember those days, Irving? Ruvain?
Yes.
You know that is so long ago. I'm going to tell you something. It's absolutely amazing. Mim Libby used to come with me to the radio station because she would take phone calls. I had to pay $200 a week for the radio time. In those days, in the early 80s, no, in the mid-80s, $800 a month was a lot of money. My rent by Moshe Chait was $450 a month. So and that was my pay in the shul. The shul paid me the $450 and my medical policy. That was my pay. And so my paying for the radio time was almost double my rent. And I didn't know Mark then, I didn't know Marshall then, I didn't have the big guns, but anyway, I remember that Mim Libby was pregnant with Nehemiah. So you know how old this is, because January 8th, Nehemiah is going to be 40. So Mim Libby we're talking about almost 41 years ago. Mim Libby was pregnant with Nehemiah, and it was in the first trimester, and she was very, very nauseous, and she would vomit in the radio station while I was on the air. I would hear her vomiting. it's what a memory. It should be a big schus for her, what she did. What kind of a thing is it to go out 1 o'clock in the morning with your husband? Oh my goodness. Talk about a woman sacrificing for Torah. Should have a lichtige Gan Eden. Okay. The Gemara continues. Nechasim hamiyuchadim. Property that has a designated owner. Now, lemute mai, what does that come to exclude? What it comes to exclude is that Rabbi Kranz, poor Rabbi Kranz, he finds his shor dead, and he saw Dr. Black's shor, and Dr. Black says, my shor didn't do it, Baruch Ian's shor did it. And Baruch Ian says, it wasn't my shor, it was Dr. Black. So since Rabbi Kranz can't prove it, he's out of money. And that's Pshat in Nechasim HaMiyuchadim, where he could say who was the exclusive damager. So Lemute Mai, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Lemute Zeh Mesharcha Hizik. Dr. Black says it was Baruch Ian's, Zeh Mesharcha Hizik. And Baruch Ian says it was Dr. Black's. So the Gemara says, Tani, come on, we learned that already. Yishnayim, right, from Achar Echad, 2 oxen were chasing Rabbi Kranz's axe. Dr. Black says it was Baruch Ian's. So the Gemara says again, Tani v'adam afarish. We're just saying the chapter heading over here, and later we're going to explain it more in depth. B'masnisa Tana prat l'nichsei hefker. That you're not chayiv if it was hefker. So heichi dami. Ilema did not gachtur l'didan l'tur de hefker. If it was Ruvain shar that gored a shar of hefker, well, of course he's pater. Who's going to ask for payment? Man tovale. Ela denogach tur de hefker l'tur didan. If it was a shar of hefker that gored Rabbi Kranz's shar, then what do you mean? Let Rabbi Kranz take the shar of hefker. Lazel v'leise. Let him go take it. No, this is in Chicago. The shar of hefker gored Rabbi Kranz's shar, and then Marshall took the shar to the shop. So Rabbi Kranz now comes to
Oil change.
now Rabbi Kranz comes to Marshall and says, "Look, you can't take this. I got to collect from it." Says, "You are nothing doing." What do you mean you got to collect from it? When it's a shar of hefker, there's no responsibility on the shar. And Marshall was zeichen it before Rabbi Kranz could get his hands on it, which makes a lot of sense. Says, well, let's see it inside. So says, let Rabbi Kranz take the shar. No, now this Gemara, there are Bnei Yeshiva that sometimes they learn a whole zman and they get up to Daf Zayin or Daf Ches. You miss out on this Gemara. This Gemara changes a lot of the whole terrain. This is really an unbelievable Gemara. Ravina Amar, now this is fitting for, it's fitting for someone like Marshall. Ravina Amar, Lim'ute nogach v'achakach hiktish. Marshall's ox gores Rabbi Kranz, and before Rabbi Kranz gets a chance to collect, Marshall goes ahead and is makdish the ox. Or nogach v'achakach hifker. He pats the ox on the rump and says, "See ya," and sends it to the wilds. So there, Rabbi Kranz has no recourse. But Rabbi Kranz is getting sick. But Rabbi Kranz has no recourse. Tanya Nami Hachi. You'll say, that's wild. But we learned in the Brisa that way. Yes, or al Keinam Rabbi Yehuda. Afilu nogach v'achakach hiktish. Even if it gores and then he sanctifies it. Nogach v'achakach hifker potter. And by the way, potter also means that the ox is not put to death. Normally, if an ox gores, it's put to death. But if after the ox gores, Marshall quickly is makdish it, or he quickly sells it, it's not put to death. Because there's a change of ownership before it's condemned in court. Shenemar v'huid b'va'alav, if we warn the owner that making it a mu'id, v'hemis ish, and it killed somebody. So the pasuk says, Hashar yisakel, the shar is stoned, v'gam ba'alav yumas. Now this doesn't mean that the owner is killed. We never kill the owner for his shar, but it means that there's kaifer. He has to ransom himself. But when do we say that it's put to death? Until there is its killing and its court date the same balam. Because it says Hashar yisakel v'gam ba'olav yumas. Says the Gemara, but Marshall can't dedicate it or sell it even before the verdict. Says the Gemara, Ugemar hadin loy ba'inan. Do you not need it to also be owned by Marshall by the verdict? Hashar yisakel b'gemar din udichsiv. So the Gemara says, you're right. Even if Marshall waits and sees it's not going his way, and then he says, okay, it's dedicated to Hekdesh, Whoop! That's it. The shor is not stoned, and Rabbi Kranz is out of his money in the case of a tam. This is, by the way, this is remarkable. And it doesn't seem to be controversial. It's a brisa that nobody argues on. I'm telling you, this is a game changer. It's a game changer. You take a guy like Marshall, right? Shimon, just keep an eye on your accent when they're in Chicago.
I'm coming for your accent, guy.
Yeah.
You take a question, Rabbi Weiss?
Yes.
So, but the Baal Ashur still has to pay his kofar, I presume.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Which goes to Hektish, and so the Baal...
No, it doesn't. It doesn't go to Hektish.
Where does it go?
It goes to the Nizik.
Oh, so the Nizik does get payment. He gets something out of it.
Yeah, but that's by a muad. There's only kaifer by a 3-timer.
Right. Okay, so if it's a tam, then... Okay.
Now, that's the idea. The idea is that the shor is not around. Because it's now hektish.
Right, so he loses his chatzi nezik under that.
Correct. Correct.
But he still gets the kofar. Okay. Thank you.
And even in the case of kaifer, we wouldn't put the shor to death. Now, chutz mirishus hamiyuchedes lemazik, that in the event that Rabbi Kranz's shor roamed into Marshall's shop, then Marshall is not chayiv. Why? Says because Damalei Turcha B'Rishusei, my boy, you have no right to have your shor in my shop. Get your shor out of my shop. You could bring in your convertible, but not your shor.
I take Ox Shield,
Right. Now,
warranty company, good for oxen.
yes, I figured you would. Urishus hanizik v'amazik, and also it excludes the property of the defendant and the mazik. Now, if you study the language over here in the Mishnah, is a big ambiguity. It says in the Mishnah, chutz mirishus hamiyuchedes l'mazik. Now that obviously means that if Rabbi Kranz's ox roams into the property of the mazik is not chayav. Then it says v'rishus hanizik v'amazik, and then it says v'rishus hanizik v'amazik, and it follows it with kishehizik chavamazik. So the ambiguity is the case of rishus hanizik v'amazik going back on the reisha, or is it connected to the seifa? Rishus hanizik v'amazik would mean if Marshall and Rabbi Kranz were partners, and Rabbi Kranz's ox gets damaged on the premises. So you could read it that Marshall is pater by Rishus hamazik, and he's also pater if it's joint ownership. Because he can tell Rabbi Kranz, look, you shouldn't have came near my stuff. Or you could learn it the other way. Or Rishus hanizik v'amazik, where it's joint ownership, there kishehizik chavamazik. There, when it does damage, Marshall is chayiv. So, says the Gemara, let's see the ambiguity over here. Rishus hanizik v'amazik amrav chista amrav imi chotzer hashutfin chayiv ba'al hashen v'aregel. If it's a joint property between Rabbi Kranz and Marshall, and Marshall's ox did damage by devouring something of Rabbi Shane's, or by stepping on it while in the normal course of his walking, so Marshall is chayiv. V'achi kamer chutz mirishus hamiyachedes l'mazik the potter. Stop. Period. Or rishus hanizik v'amazik, a joint-owned place, Kishihizik, when it damages, Chava Mazik, Marshal is Chai. While Rabbi Lazar the other way around. Potter ala Shein v'ala Regel. That Marshal is exempt for the damage of Shein and Regel in a joint owned. V'achi Kamar. Chutz mirishus ha-miyechedes l'mazik, and also urishus hanizik v'mazik nami potter. So then, when it says chizik chava mazik, what's that coming to include? That when it damages chava mazik, what's that coming to add? La'asuyei keren. We only talked about the damage of shein and regel. The damage of keren that pays a chatzi nezek, we didn't talk about it in the Mishnah, because the Mishnah was only talking about mu'odin mitchilasan. So the Gemara says, that's good. This we had a machlokes about. Hanichel Shmuel, who says that the Mishnah was only talking about shein and regel. El Rav, who says that when it says shar, it means all the damages of shar. The Amar Tana shar v'chol milei de shar. Then chava mazik la'asuyei mai. That's coming to exclude la'asuyei had the Tana rabbanan. Kishehizik chava mazik, when it does damage, it's the responsibility of the damager. Lahavi shomer chinam v'ashoyel noisi sacher v'asaycher. It comes to include a borrower, unpaid watchman, paid watchman, or a renter, shezika behema b'rishusan, that an animal does damage in their possession. Tam mishalim chatzi nezek, a tam pays half, or muad mishalim nezek shalom. Then it gives us a few other halachas here. It's nice that Elliot Udell, Dr. Udell, is now our 30th Zoomer of the evening. Welcome, Dr. Udell, as you have become the 30th Zoomer of tonight, which is very, very nice.
Can we go to half a case for 30?
No. You're just as...
Maybe one bottle?
There's only one eitzah. And that eitzah is that you have to really do something. I know it's a very big thing.
I'm a big mazik here. I'm doing a lot.
Yeah, you have to do something. You have to get out there, make posters, make phone calls, put on your shop a big sign on top of the shop, zoomdaf.com.
My shorts screaming, Daf Yomi, Daf Yomi.
Right. That's what you should do, You should stand somewhere, waving back and forth the whole day,
I posted on my Facebook page.
Good.
Good.
That's everybody posted on all their things, on their Twitters and their Instagrams and their matzah balls. It would be a very good thing.
Matzah balls get eaten too fast.
Now, anyway, Nifritza Balayla, if you're just joining us, like Dr. Yudel, we're in the third wide line on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. Remember that we have the Chumash here immediately after we did the Mishnayos already. Again, by the way, I don't know if it's Nagea anybody, and I don't know if it's even going to be used, but I already put 3 shiurim on Spotify. So somebody wants to, if you know people that use Spotify, so I put a marriage shir on Spotify and a toldoi shir on Spotify. So take a look at it. So anyway, Nifritza Balayla, if the wall of the barn collapsed in the night, so it was an oinus, Oisha Pitsua listim, or it was broken into by bandits, the Yatzisa Vehezika, and the animal escaped and did damage, potter, because that's considered an oinus.